Welcome back, Colts fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for another edition of the Colts Report with Will Retherford. And today, joined by Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood, co-leader. Typically, Will and I do this on Tuesday or Wednesday, and we break down the film and grade each position, each facet of the game. Today, we're just going to kind of talk things over because it's Monday. We haven't really had time to do that. And it's Thanksgiving week. We're not going to get together another time this week. So let's start with, Will, how disappointing that third and fourth quarter were. And what I want to talk about most of all, and I don't think it's fair to just pin this all on Coach Steichen, but more of the philosophy of what you do with overtime strategy. Will, your initial thoughts on the Colts loss?
I thought that you could make an argument that Steichen's what lost the game for the Colts. I thought that there were some coaching decisions and strategy down the stretch that I found to be a little confusing. At the same time, I do think there were some plays out there to be made. The offense looked bad. He is the play caller, so I think that he definitely has a role to play with that. I don't know if Daniel Jones did a great job commanding the line of scrimmage. From what I saw, I didn't see a ton of checks. Now, there could be subtle hand signals that he's giving that I'm not catching because it's with the naked eye on the TV copy where he could be giving people direction. But I didn't see a ton of command from him at the line of scrimmage. And that's something that I've seen kind of the last 2 weeks. We've kind of talked about it a little bit. There are times I don't think that he always finds a pressure release or finds that safety valve that he really needs to be able to survive pressure, especially when teams are bringing sixer guys with him. Yeah, it's disappointing because that was a game they could have won. I think they coached themselves out of it.
They've lost 3 games this year, and they gave away 2 of them.
I think you could make an argument that Rams game...
That game was over if he doesn't drop the ball in the end zone.
I agree. With that being said, they still had the opportunity to go win that beyond that and didn't.
Sure.
And this Chiefs game, I think they had the opportunity to go win the game a couple times and chose not to. Specifically, I didn't really love the idea of punting back to KC there with about 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. All they need to do is get a field goal there. They ultimately get the field goal to force into overtime. And it's just like Steichen typically goes for it and rolls the dice. It was 4th and 4, well within your territory. It was going to be a difficult punt. And it's one of those strategically, I say that if you're going to punt there, you've got to make sure that ball stays out of the end zone. Why? Because then you're net gaining 20 yards of field position. They were able to get the ball down to the 4-yard line. So in theory, it worked. Trying to pin him deep. I just would not have given Mahomes back the ball with the chance for me to maybe go win the game on top of it.
Don't you think one of the biggest keys, though, is when they had the ball at the 5 and can't come away with a touchdown?
And I have gone back and reviewed that play, and I still don't see offensive pass interference. I don't know how that's the call. If anything, no call it, because...
Well, that's why I thought no should be no flag.
Michael Pittman is grabbed down by his jerseys around the shoulder pads. Like, that is, by definition, defensive pass interference. Now, Michael Pittman did engage in contact with the receiver. That's within the rights of the league. He did not.
The lack of creativity inside the 5-yard line is much more than just that call.
Well, could they not have run it a little sooner? Why not come up with a way to get it into Jonathan Taylor's hands in the open field? I just don't... Again, that's my biggest takeaway from this game and I hope Shane Steichen and company realize that may have been one of their biggest mistakes, was not finding a way to get the ball in Taylor's hands enough and in create space, because they've done that. You said that pull out and even the nice run. They've done some nice ways to get him the ball out of the passing game, even delay to create an open space. To me, there's no one better, running back better than Jonathan Taylor in open space.
I can't argue with that. I think that you do have to try to force feed him the ball a little bit when you have an elite running back like that. I would say, kind of to Greg's credit, I'd really like to see them toy with that wildcat sort of read option there in the red zone with Warren and Taylor inside the 5-yard line.
Or Anthony Richardson and Taylor when he comes back.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I think when I've seen teams go direct snap to running backs this season, which I feel like I'm seeing the prevalence of that happen more. It's been successful. You saw it with the Cleveland yesterday a couple times. The Jacksonville has done it with Travis Etienne multiple times. You saw it with Travis Kelce. I think it really can play to the Chiefs do it with Rashee Rice, actually, to that point as well. They did not do it yesterday, but they have done it. I think Steichen, up to this point, has done a B-plus coaching job for this team, if not A-minus coaching job. I think that they've come out ready to play every single week. The play calling down the stretch just felt conservative to me, and I think he put the ball in Daniel Jones' hands a little too often.
Daniel Jones is not the best player. In those situations, on the road, tough environment, I want the ball in my best player's hands against Jonathan Taylor.
I agree.
Let's talk Daniel Jones, because we saw the best of Daniel Jones and the worst of Daniel Jones yesterday. But man, if you're planning on making him your franchise quarterback, it's going to be a rough go.
Games like that scare me when you see kind of how he performed down the stretch. To no fault of his own, I think that there were a lot of factors that kind of came into that. But at the end of the day, the quarterback still has a chance to go make plays. Regardless of what anybody wants to say, like Daniel Jones had a chance to go in that game. He didn't do it, and he looked scared.
And for 2.5 quarters, he looked amazing.
Yeah.
He looked like MVP Daniel Jones we were getting early in the year.
Yep. I think that he struggled to get the ball to his playmakers. He struggled to deliver the ball on time. I think he was sometimes a little early, sometimes a little late. There were a couple balls he threw up. One to Warren that was in double coverage. It should have been picked off.
Yeah. If they don't knock each other off the play, it's an easy interception.
It's just, we're getting to the point now where you really do have to beg the question, do you want to pay your quarterback $40 million a year, a minimum of Daniel Jones, what he's probably going to garner with his next contract extension, for somebody that's going to cower down in big, hostile environments on the road? We're going to get the chance to see Daniel Jones in tough environments the rest of this way. They've got to go play Houston twice. They have to play Jacksonville twice. They have to play at Seattle. They've got to play the 49ers at home on a Monday night football game. You're going to go into these pseudo playoff games against really tough competition. Daniel Jones, up to this point, I would have said, has played his way into a huge contract. On the contrary, I think he has the opportunity to play himself out of a huge contract if he really struggles down the stretch.
Hey, we talk about the lack of adjustments, but somebody that's also in that kind of environment where it's loud and defense, who's got to be making adjustments along the way, is your offensive line coach. After series, when you get those guys over there, you've also got to be making some adjustments maybe on how you're going to handle certain lineups. And I don't know that the Colts always have made those adjustments in a couple of games that they've lost where they needed to.
The Colts got gashed in the A-gap really by Drew Tranquill. He was in the backfield a lot. I think they really struggled. Now, I will say Spagnuolo does draw up aggressive run blitzes. Like, he really does make an emphasis of, we're going to try to shoot the gaps as quickly as possible. And to do the Chiefs' credit, the defensive line played really well. They were taking up two bodies in times, especially if they're trying to force a double team, and it allowed the Chiefs' linebacking core to go in and kind of disrupt plays, get Taylor off schedule, get him rushing a little bit. He's a very patient, deliberate running back. When he finds the hole that he wants to hit, he goes 20 miles an hour through it. And I think the Chiefs tried their best to take that away from him. They did a good job. It's on Steichen and this Colts team to find a way to scheme the ball to him when it matters the most. There were a couple play calls I really didn't like. I don't like in the fourth quarter, or at overtime, you're at 4th and 1, you run a play out of shotgun. If you're going to run that play out of the shotgun, you better go for it on 4th, regardless of what the outcome is. You need to just say, and I think if you take the ball in the fourth quarter first, or in overtime, you should be going forward on 4th down regardless.
Unless you kick a field goal.
Unless you kick a field goal. And that's...
Coming away with 0 is a death sentence.
It was. And the second that the Colts punted in overtime, you knew what Kansas City was going to do. You left the door wide open for Mahomes to go win it, and he did just enough to make it happen. The Colts forced him to 3rd down a couple times.
The only hope was the Colts defense making a play. That was the only hope.
Because if that did not happen, they were losing. And you saw the consequence. The Chiefs killed the Colts in the second half on mesh crossing patterns.
And just the week before, same situation. He takes the ball second. They stop the Falcons and go win the game.
Yeah.
What? How does it make any sense?
I don't understand it either. It baffles me. I don't get it. Because if I'm the Colts in that situation, I almost want Kansas City to win the toss.
You know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw this out there just for consideration. Because Kansas City put together a drive, so your defense had been on the field, and maybe that was it. Maybe they didn't want their defense back out on the field, and they wanted their offense.
And that could be true. I think that there is definitely some truth to that. With that being said, if I take it second and I know Kansas City scores a touchdown, now I'm calling my offensive drive different. I know I have 4 downs every single time I touch the ball.
And I can score 8.
And I have the opportunity, if Kansas City goes for 2, then I've got to go for 2. Kansas City's not. They're going to kick the field goal and hope for a stop. But then if I'm Shane Steichen, I'm going for 2. You're playing for the win there. Unless, now I will say, you're going to have somebody in your ear telling you what's the consequence of a tie. And if the consequence of a tie is better than a loss, then you're going to kick that extra point, and you're going to walk away going 0-0-1 on the week. And I know people might say they hate it, but that tiebreaker, especially not having that extra loss, that puts you a half game above people in the division.
I get it, because that helps Green Bay. It really does. In that tight division race they're in.
If they would have won that game, it would have helped a lot.
Right. But what I'm saying is, in that tight division, that one... Not tight division. Yeah.
It's all hypothetical.
Yeah.
I would still say you always play to win.
Yes.
Well, you know what I hate? Watching the Colts game at 1 o'clock and watching Leatu Latu, and then turning on a Rams game at 8:15 and watching Jared Verse.
It's painful. And you know what's sad is Latu played pretty well yesterday. I think he's still better than you.
Yeah, probably.
He's better than you think, but he's not Jared Verse.
Because I'm watching Jared Verse, the next pick in the draft.
You're a hate watcher. You hate you.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't think Latu is a top 20 NFL pick. Maybe not even a top 25 pick. I'm not taking. If I'm a team, I'm not taking him. And maybe late first round, but I'm not when the Colts did.
Defensive end already.
I've said this since the time it happened. They were picking Brock Bowers. And then they got stuck in a situation where he was taking the pick before him, and now we have to make a decision on who we want. I don't think they ever went to that draft thinking
if you're taking a defensive end, I thought it was obvious to everybody that Jared Verse was the better of the two.
But as we've said, where has Ballard struggled the most in the draft? It's D-line. He really struggles there. Why? Because he always drafts.
It's so hard to watch Jared Verse.
He always drafts for athletic upside and not necessarily what the tape shows. And Latu looks like a phenomenal athlete when you turn on that college shape at UCLA.
It's like watching John Elway back in the day.
Yeah, well, that's Al Davis's philosophy, and that's why the Raiders fell so off, because that's what he started becoming enamored with, the numbers instead of the film.
It's like he's a Colts fan.
I'm not saying the numbers. I'm saying the raw athletic ability.
Right, but a lot of that with the combine is the numbers, the measurements and the numbers. So that's what I'm getting in. That's what Al Davis, once they had that combine, he started doing that. He got enamored with that and less away from tape.
For sure. As Colts fans, it's like watching John Elway over all those years and knowing that he should have been a Colt. All right, well, we've talked about last week, and now it's time to put it aside. We will have our Colts Texans preview on Friday. But you said something on our reaction podcast that you're not sure the Colts are going to win the division anymore. How are you feeling about that right now?
I don't think they will. They have one of the toughest schedules left. The Colts lose and Jacksonville wins next week. They're not leading the division anymore.
They're going to be favored in 4 of those 6 games.
They'll be favored at home against both Houston and Jacksonville.
And on the road against both Houston and Jacksonville, unless C.J. Stroud's playing.
Not necessarily.
C.J. Stroud's playing it.
Not necessarily. We'll have to see how it goes. That's not.
If Stroud plays, they might not be, but if it's Davis Mills, I promise you.
I'll give you the 3 home games, they'll be favored.
Yes.
I'll give you that. I think the 3 road games, they're probably not favored. And you know what? If they go
3-3, they're winning the division.
You're fine. We'll see.
Depends on who
I'm telling you.
what those three and where
telling
that
you.
3-3 is.
There's still Jacksonville's got to play Tennessee twice. They've got to play the Jets. They got to play the Colts.
They're the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, but you know what? They're finding ways to beat people.
Unfortunately, they're finding ways to win.
They're finding ways to win.
And so is Houston, for that
matter. Yes, Marco Ryan's
Houston, I kind of understand.
If you look at that team now and
I
just look really
Jacksonville,
fired up.
Jacksonville's the dumbest team in the history of the NFL. They're horribly coached. They can't catch the ball. They've played a horrible schedule.
They've played a considerably harder schedule than the Colts have up to this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They've already played the Seahawks. They've already played the Rams. They've already played the 49ers. They already played, they had played the Chiefs before the Colts did. They've played all of these opponents before they played the Chargers.
We'll see. So are they going to make the playoffs? Because if they don't,
they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make the
division, man. That's going to be tough to make the playoffs. Unless you believe in Davis Mills or do you believe that Jacksonville's going to go 5-1 the rest of the way? Because the Colts are going to win 10 or 11 games. You think Jacksonville's going to win 12?
I don't know. I think it's possible. I think the Colts might have the same record as Jacksonville. It's just going to be where their tiebreaker falls. So that's why these division games are going to be so important. For the Colts, they have two in hand. They beat Tennessee the both times they played them. You need to go match the other two and be 4-2. I don't know how it's all going to shake out. I think right now, based on this schedule that the Colts have, I think 11-6 is what you hope they finish up as.
Well, we're going to make our predictions on Friday for the Colts-Texans game, but I'll just give a little spoiler here. I think there are going to be lots of hugs and smiles on the sidelines in the fourth quarter as the Colts are winning this game.
I hope so.
Will, Michelle, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for listening. Again, please tune in Friday for our Colts-Texans preview. I think the Chiefs game was the biggest game of the year. Now I think the Texans game is easily the biggest game of the year. We will preview that on Friday. We got so much coming up. The bucket. We got Purdue basketball. We got IU basketball and football. We got Pacers. We're going to need to talk about WNBA pretty soon. Please tune in. And thank you for listening. We always appreciate it. Share this podcast with a Colts fan in your life. Help us spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about every single day.
Go Colts.
Thank you for having me.
Central Indiana Sports Report is brought to you by TG Media, and I love Susie.